We all know honesty is the best policy, and that can't be truer than when you're planning to get engaged or get married. However, what I see in my office day after day with working with couples is a scenario that is not real common, but it happens. And it happens more than I'd like, because when it happens, it's a breach of trust. No matter how you look at it, it's a breach of trust. And what specifically am I talking about? When a partner, a spouse who you marry, so they are now officially a spouse, confides in you something very bad or shameful that they did. In other words, they were holding on to it and they didn't divulge it to you until after you got married. And sometimes these secrets they've kept, or whatever you want to call them, I call them secrets, are so devastating to the new spouse with good reason. It can be anything, that this partner, this spouse has another kid from somebody, and a kid you never knew about, or they're heavy into porn addiction, or they watch porn addiction, or they lost a job once due to being drunk at work, or whatever the situation is. It's not good. And it puts them in a whole different light than they were when you walked down that aisle with them, for many reasons. Number one, there was the secrecy, and they're intentionally not telling you about it. This is how it feels. And it's also the idea that to marry someone, you've evaluated their character, and you believe in your heart of hearts that this person is of outstanding character. They're a good person. Otherwise, you wouldn't commit to life with them, and you wouldn't say I do in front of family, friends, and God, your faith. So I think it is entirely devastating, and I'm going to ask you as you watch this video, if this has happened to you or you're suspicious that it could happen to you, that you have used this video to talk to your partner about this very serious topic. Now, what I want to explain first is why people may hold information from you until after they're married, because the reasons, you're going to basically project reasons on them, but sometimes those projections are coming from you, from past experiences, maybe even from your childhood. So it's much better you hear the more common ones, or the ones therapists have listened to and believe. Okay, the first one, they have a fear of rejection. They have an intense fear of rejection, that if you knew the truth, you would not marry them. And their whole idea, their whole objective is to marry you. Secondly, they may feel there's a desire to protect you. They don't want to hurt you. And so they feel like what you don't know is going to protect you. It's better if you don't know. They kind of think like, I think I can handle this, and they won't need to get involved. Thirdly, they're hoping for change. They're hoping that the whole thing resolves before they get married. And so this is why they don't tell you before. They're like, okay, well, we're engaged, but we'll work it out at work. You know, it'll handle, or wherever the situation is, I'm sure it'll work itself out. And then before you know it, you're in the throes of the wedding. And so you really don't work it out, because every day of your life is planning this wedding. And if the other person is excited and you don't want to ruin that for them, you don't want to have this be like the big spoiler, so you just don't talk about it. The next is just an internal struggle. You know, will she think or he think I'm a bad person? Will they be ashamed of me? Oh, I should tell them. But is honesty always the best policy? Because I really don't know how this is going to work out. Maybe it's all going to be okay. So this back and forth is making you kind of wait, like nothing is done about it. And lastly, it's just timing. Let's face it, if you've gone through the process of getting engaged, then there's classes, then, I mean, everybody would say there were ample opportunities for you to talk about it. But if it didn't come up then, are you going to wait till, right before the wedding or 6 months before the wedding when your spouse is already planning all the clothes and you've got the venue and you've got the cake and everything you need? I can understand why they could just say there wasn't a time. But once again, that is an excuse, and we know that's an excuse. So it's important that you hold them accountable to that when you're working through it. So what should you do? Okay, this is probably the most important part of the video, because how you handle this is going to dictate the future of moving through this situation with your partner. So the first thing, stay calm. Stay calm and open. I know it's hard. At this point, if you need a therapist, get a therapist and start going to them. Instead of venting at your partner or making any of it worse, I would get a therapist and I would start talking to them so that they could help guide me. And not only that, but if I'm able to release some of what I'm feeling with them, then what I take back to my partner, I'm going to be more rational about it so we can make a better decision about moving forward. Ask for the context. Ask your partner for the context. Just hearing something, you can put it in all sorts of stories. You want the truth of the total context of what happened. And the more calm you are, the more likely they're going to tell you everything, because they're going to say, okay, they have this, like they're in control of themselves. They're going to be able to not to overreact. They're going to call it overreact. It's reacting. But at the same time, that is important. Next, evaluate the impact. What does this mean for you? What does this mean for you as a couple? Are you still a couple? Is this still your spouse that you said I do to? Is this still the person that has these great attributes you gave them? I mean, they have certainly one part that's not so great, but does that demolish all the rest of the good? I think it's important that you evaluate. And if it's going to lead to legal issues, how much of that are you going to be safe from and cut yourself from so you don't have to go through it? And how good are you at making a boundary? Okay, this is your responsibility. You're going to have to step up and take care of it. Do seek professional guidance. I think you probably should have done that at step 1, my personal opinion, but it is going to help you. You can go together or you can go alone. I think talking about, with a therapist, how can we move forward from this? Are there steps moving forward from this? But on a very broad sense, what I'm going to suggest is that the two of you will work on boundaries and expectations. I mean, boundaries around what they disclosed. So you're not telling other people, you're keeping it between the two of you. And then expectations, what are the best scenarios moving forward? Like in the case, if there was another child, is that child going to be living with us? Are we now paying money for the child that I wasn't aware of when I walked down the aisle with you? I think things like that are very important. Any money issues, might be a good idea to get a counselor and a financial advisor to guide the two of you now married together with this issue. And also just like your ability to talk about, are we still compatible? Like, this was huge. And, everything I loved about you, I had no idea that this was a problem you had. Like, you kept it a secret. And, does that mean, like, let's say it's pornography. Is this going to be in our home now? Like, do I always have to make allowances for this? Like, I know you have this problem. Is this why you can no longer sexually perform? Do you still desire me? Are we still sexually healthy like I thought we were going into the relationship? These are big questions, and you have to ask yourself, and you have to talk about it with your partner. And lastly, you need to assess yourself. Can I trust you again? Who are you? because you will have those thoughts. And I think being able to know yourself and how big of an issue is this to the fundamental trust you have in this person. Is that broken or corrupted, or is it still intact? You still trust the person. This is just something really shameful and embarrassing for them, and you're going to try and still be their supportive spouse and move forward. Once again, therapy is key in this. If this is helpful for you, please subscribe. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much.